Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Day Ghost. I'm your host, Austin, and today I've got a guest. I've got Doolittle, aka Josh. How's it going, man?
Doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited to talk some Thor for you. I have Doctor Strange, unfortunately. I don't have a Thor shirt, but what can you do?
Well, I'm actually in the process of ordering a Thor shirt. I just got my paycheck,
Oh,
so
nice.
now I'm like gonna get I think it's like the cover of like issue 154. It's like a really cool cover where it's like Thor and then the background's like this black and white like collage, and I want to get
Mhm.
that as a shirt.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, because you've been getting really big into Thor recently, right?
Yeah, I've read quite a bit of the '60s Thor.
Mhm.
Not so much the earlier stuff. I'm actually going. I'm like backtracking to that stuff, but I have read the later Lee and Kirby Thor, um, and I've read. I guess now we're just going through my history of Thor. I read the first like visionary of the Walter Simonson. I have the omnibus of the Walter Simonson Thor run, but
Yeah, I do
I
too.
got around to reading the first visionary worth of the of material
Mhm.
that they did, that Walter Simonson did.
Yeah, I think
And I
I've
read the first
read.
arc of Visionary.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh,
I think for Simonson, I've read the first like maybe 10 issues, and I've read
yeah,
like the first few issues of Lee and Kirby. I'm very uh like blind when it comes to Thor. I've read very little, but I've liked what I've read about it. It's just I haven't read a ton. But anyways, we're
yeah,
talking about the movies, so I guess since it's the fourth movie in a franchise, we should probably lay down how we feel about the first three before we get into it quickly. So,
yeah.
Josh, what's your kind of opinions on the initial trilogy of the Thor movies?
So I think that there's something to like about all three of the four Thor movies in
Mhm.
some way. Um, I think that you know I think the first one really nails the Shakespearean vibe and the kind of dialect that a lot of the characters have with each other. And a lot of that is owed to Kenneth Branagh's directing. You know, and because he's had experience with Shakespeare, and
Mhm.
he definitely brings that to the table. And he is also a fan of the Thor comics, and I believe that watching the movie. Not every decision that's made in that movie I necessarily agree with, but I think that ultimately it's a fine film, and I think it's a nice introduction. And I would have liked to have seen what Kenneth Branagh did with the second movie because Thor: The Dark World was pretty boring. Um, Not that there's some nice moments in it. There's some really nice moments with Thor and Loki, and I think that there's some nice design work with like the Dark Elves. I
Mhm.
really like. There is like some cool stuff in that movie. A lot of people make it out to be like a super boring movie, and like it is boring, but like there's some fun stuff here and there.
Yeah, I've always really liked
Um,
the climax of the second Thor movie too. Like I like the whole
oh yeah,
portal thing. I like, yeah, like you said, some of the design work. Like they would completely remove all of his color from the comics, but I kind of like their design for Curse, the like big henchman guy. And then yeah, there's like some fun character moments and stuff between Thor and Loki, and I like how they handle his mom.
hmm oh yeah. No, I think that the way they handled Freya was pretty well done.
Hmm.
Uh, and for Ragnarok, I have a very interesting history with this movie because when I first watched it, I really didn't like it. I felt it was too farcical and too, like for my taste, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And I feel like a lot of this is. because the movie itself hasn't really changed. I think it's more just me. And I went back to it before watching Love and Thunder just to kind of refresh myself because it's the same director, Taika Waititi, is going from Ragnarok to Love and Thunder, and I just wanted to rewatch Ragnarok. And when I went back to Ragnarok, I liked it quite a bit because, to me, at least, it kind of felt like kind of pushing the two extremes of kind of like what Stanley and Jack Kirby were doing in the '60s, where like Stanley was definitely very influenced by like Errol Flynn, kind of like swashbuckling
Your kind of
with
adventure movie.
yeah, and kind of like the quippy kind of you know like people are joking and wisecracking and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I feel like the movie kind of taps into that to the extreme end. Um, your tastes and opinions on that might vary, but I thought it worked for the most part. And it also kind of goes the extreme of the Jack Kirby influence as well, where it goes even beyond just adapting Kirby work. It kind of borderlines on translating it onto film, which is interesting. Like a lot of the props and just the production design on that film feels like it's ripped straight from Kirby's kind of style and designs, especially in like '60s Marvel.
Yeah, for
So no,
sure.
I thought it was fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so I we have like the exact same opinion on the first movie. Like it's fine. There's stuff I like about it. There's stuff I don't. Like it's kind of whatever. Second one, I think we also pretty much agree. Like there's stuff I like in it. It's not, the worst movie ever like some people make it out to be, but it's not like especially good. It's definitely a step down. And then three, we have the reverse, where I walked out of the theater like, oh man, that was the best Thor movie. They did such a good job.
Yeah.
And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh man, that really wasn't very good, was it? And I know a lot of people go to the comedy with that movie, or maybe not a lot of people because most people love that movie, but like a lot of people that don't. But for me, honestly, it's more. I would describe that movie as being like X-Men 3, where we kind of take two plots that don't fit together and we jam them in, and neither really gets a chance to like be fully fleshed out. Like we take the Ragnarok stuff and we kind of start that, and then it completely gets cut off and turns into a Planet Hulk movie for like an hour, and then we kind of it's almost like we bookend with Ragnarok, which is just really strange. And it reminds me of X-Men 3 in that it's the Cure and the Dark Phoenix saga kind of fighting for you know like to be the movie, and that's to me kind of what Ragnarok is. And then like some of the humor stuff I don't think really works. Um,
Right.
but now we can jump straight into this new picture, Thor 4, Love and Thunder, which the second I heard that title, I was like, oh man, that's a rough title. I don't know about that one.
I didn't. Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't really have too much of an issue with the title. I kind of expected it to be
Mhm,
that title, given it's Taika Waititi, and we already know that he's going to have a very comedic, kind of lighthearted take on Thor, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm not. I just wasn't surprised by it. Is kind of what that was,
mhm. No, that is absolutely fair. I
Yeah.
think it was just like more of like a really that's what you went with? Like there wasn't like a maybe like a comic booky thing that like that it, like put in the title like for whatever you're adapting, but um
Right.
you know.
Because there's some cool titles you could have gone with. Could have gone with like God Bomb or something like that. From the Aaron Run.
Hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, well, whatever. So just like initially it was like, oh man, like I don't know about that, and everything just kind of building up to it with what people have been talking about that worked on the film was like, oh, I don't know, like you guys are building me up to something that's maybe gonna be worse than Ragnarok. I don't know. Um, and then I don't know what it is, but like I feel like maybe like a week ago I had like a flip where it was like and part of it was seeing the trailers too, where it was like, okay, I'm still seeing a lot of that stuff that I don't really like with the kind of Hemsworth improv and whatnot. But like
Right.
Bale looks cool, and one of the things that I don't like about Ragnarok is that I feel like most of it feels like actors on a green screen, and just from the trailers, I wasn't really having that, and it was like, oh, it looks a lot more visually distinct and interesting.
Mhm.
So there was a point where I kind of flipped in a way where I was like, oh, you know what? Like maybe I am like maybe a little excited. Like what if he pulls it off? What if it's really cool? And I kind of went in at least thinking it would be better than the last one. I don't really know where I stand on that, um, but
Mhm.
we'll get into that. Do you want to give like a brief summary of what the movie is about?
Yeah. So, you know, basically it follows. Basic plot is Gore comes in, and movie starts out, and Gore, his like planet's uninhabitable, like the ecosystem's all messed up, and he's like praying to the gods and hoping that they come and help his people and help him and his daughter who dies. Spoiler.
It's
Uh,
first 2 minutes, but
yeah. But then he finds the gods, he meets them, and he, discovers that, the gods that he worships are selfish and, kind of out for themselves mainly. And
Mhm.
um, he then swears to kill all the gods and something with eternity. Um, you know,
Yeah,
he has a vision of like I was kind of confused by that, to be honest. That was a question I had. Was he gets like the sword, and then he gets like a vision too of eternity. I
Mhm.
think is that what happened? Like,
Yeah, I think it's like the sword kind of manipulating him. Like I get the sense that it's the sword that's kind of calling out to him,
oh
and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, and then it just is, it's like, oh, go find eternity. Like that's what you need to do. Um, and
okay,
that's what our quest is. He's gonna go to eternity, and Thor and Co need to stop it. And Natalie
yeah,
Portman is back as Lady Thor, but don't call her that.
yeah, yeah. That's right. And well, what I like the most about just the plot and making it concise is that basically they have to save the children, you know,
Kind of like Batman
the children in
Returns.
New Asgard.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's like a rescue thing where Gore comes, he takes the kids to lure out Thor, and
yeah,
we got to go get the kids on this adventure. And we go
yeah,
to only one spot. I do think this movie feels very cut down in that way. Like it feels very bare bones in a sense, where it's like, okay, you have like introduction, we get Thor. He immediately learns about what the adventure is. He goes back to Asgard. Gore attacks. He takes the children. They go, okay, well, what do we do now? Let's go get an army of gods. So they do that. It doesn't work out.
yeah,
And then they go, okay, well, we'll just go fight Gore instead. They just immediately go to Gore, lose, and that's the end of the second act. And then go back and fight Gore again, and we win, and that's kind of it. Or obviously it's a bit more complicated than that. But while watching
Mhm.
it, it was very like, yeah, like it's an adventure, but it feels very like locked into place. You know what I mean?
I kind of like that though. To be honest,
Mhm.
I kind of liked how I think it's an hour and 59 minutes. I think like it's a
Yeah.
very short movie.
Mhm.
I don't know. I think it kind of fit. Like it kind of felt like like this is just like a fun adventure that you can kind of like track pretty easily in a linear fashion.
Mhm.
Um, it definitely though there is definitely some cut stuff, as we'll probably mention throughout the review. But I think that ultimately it was probably cut down in a way that I felt like was in service to the story and the themes and ideas. Hopefully,
It's
like everyone
very just
figured
the
that out.
essentials.
Yeah,
Yeah, like there's not a lot of sidetracking. It's very much just we have kind of everything that we need, and obviously there's a lot of you're kind of getting off track is just the improv stuff of okay, well, let's stop for a minute to do like a joke thing, as
yeah,
opposed to going off and doing whatever in the story.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I guess first off, I wanted to say I really liked the opening of this movie.
Oh,
The Up to a point. So I really like everything with Gore and his daughter. That feels like a really cool short story at the beginning of this movie. Um, and then when he meets the god, there was like an immediate like disconnect where we kind of introduce this god character, and I don't know if it's just like CGI around him or like what exactly it is, but there was something about him where I was like, this person looks off, like they're not really there, and it's kind of distracting. And then we kind of immediately get into that, you know, the kind of style of humor that Watiti has for these movies. And it was just kind of jarring after this really dramatic opening with gore, and then I didn't really like 'cause going in I was like, okay, I'm gonna at least like Christian Bale in this movie, and I kind of feel like he's got a really good like opening scene and a really good ending scene, and then in between that they kind of just put him on a fishing line and throw him out to sea. Because there's a lot of this
word.
movie where I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. It's really bizarre.
Oh, see, because I actually really liked him
Mhm.
as Gore throughout the movie. I liked him as kind of like this boogeyman kind of figure, you know. I really liked the scenes with the kids because he felt like this kind of like, and I also like the way Taika Waititi directs kids as well and works with kids. I think he really understands like child psychology based on stuff like Jojo Rabbit. Um, which you can see a little bit of that influence seeping in here a little bit with some of the more
Mhm.
heavy stuff in the movie with Jane, which we'll get into later. But
Yeah.
I thought that those scenes were really menacing and scary. I was like, oh, that's creepy. Like Jesus, you know. So I like that stuff quite a bit, and I like that they changed his design pretty significantly
Mhm.
from the comics to the movie. Because in the comics, I want to say I heard my friend was talking about this with me. He was like, they were concerned about him looking like Voldemort, I think, in the
Yeah, because he
movie.
doesn't have a nose.
Yeah, which I can kind of understand because like you're going from one medium to another.
I
Not really
I
gonna
also
work
think
on
it
movies, but
works. I also think it works just in the sense of like keeping his performance in a way. Like there's nothing
oh
that's kind of harping on him. You know what I mean? Like it's not like okay, we got Christian Bale here, and then we're gonna kind of slather him with CGI, and then he's just gonna have to act through it. Uh, so that is nice. I do think that that was a good choice. But I don't know, there's just something about him just wasn't connecting with me, and he felt like really over the top in places in a way that I didn't really expect him to go to. It's maybe not as bad as Kate Blanchett in Ragnarok, because to me she's very much like a Power Rangers villain in that, and Bale in this I feel like is intimidating until he's not. Like, and I don't even really know how to explain it. I also just walked out of this movie like 10 minutes ago, so there is a lot of that kind of processing. But it felt like okay, he is creepy. They do have the boogeyman aspect, which is cool. Uh, but they also like try to make them darkly funny, and I think that kind of also takes away from it. Like I think his kind of like dark comedic bits don't really work.
mm, that's fair. I uh I kind of I didn't even read those bits as jokes. I kind of
Mhm.
read them as just straight up creepy. You know,
Mhm.
I maybe the intention was to laugh, but I saw those bits and I was just like, no, this guy's just super freaky and weird. Like that that's kind of the vibe I got from it. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, that's cool. That's a cool take.
Why?
Just a very
Yeah.
unsettling figure, you know.
Mhm.
Um, oh god, what was I gonna say? Oh, on kind of going back to the Voldemort thing.
Mhm.
I'm happy that they didn't do that also for Christian Bale specifically because this is a dude who is a method actor in terms of like he will adjust so many things about his physical appearance and demeanor to do something. So like, yeah, you don't really need to like put makeup on this dude. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
or no, like that kind of intense makeup. You know? So I think that it was a smart choice in that regard.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think just kind of thinking about it too. Part of it is he gets like really big in places, like where he'll do like the big like
Oh yeah.
thing with his mouth, and it's like I don't really know what you're doing, man. Like I don't know, and maybe on rewatches I'll rewatch it and go like, okay, like I've kind of settled into a place like I can kind of see what's going on, but just on a first viewing, it's
Right.
very much like I don't know, like you were the one thing I was excited for.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh, what's going on with this dude? You know? No, I can respect that, man.
Mhm,
I liked it because in like what I read of Gore in the comics, he kind of does do that thing where he goes like, like
mhm,
he like his teeth in the comics. Very happy they kept that between the movie and the comics because what I read of Gore in the comics, by the way, I only read the first like arc of Aaron's run, but like Gore, his teeth is such a defining part of his kind of attitude in design and in like articulating emotion, like his fury, his like wrath, and I think it's nice that they kind of carried that through in the movie in subtle ways,
mhm. Yeah, and that's just one of those places too where I'm coming at this having not read the Jason Aaron Thor stuff, so I'm sure there's stuff that they're referencing with that is over my head. Um,
Well, I mean, there's stuff that they're referencing that's over my head because I haven't read everything. You know what I mean?
oh, of course.
Um, yeah.
But I guess to go back to the introduction, we of course have the Guardians of the Galaxy, who are my favorite comic book team, and the second one's probably in my top three MCU movies. The first one's at least in the top 10. Like I really like both of those movies, and I don't know, like they really feel out of character to me in places, and especially Chris Pratt. I felt like walked on set and was like, I'm collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, I guess it didn't bother me too much because they were such a small part of the movie, so
That
I
is definitely a
was kind of
thing.
able. Yeah, I liked, they carried on with the Star Lord and Thor rivalry, which was funny and fun, I guess.
Mhm.
I could see why, as a Guardians fan, you are probably a bit let down in places though, because they are uh, kind of like abstractions of what those characters are supposed to be. You have
Mhm.
like Nebula being like very like aggressive,
Mhm.
like more than like typical,
We had
kind of.
Nebula's like entire character in this movie is just that she screams and shoots a big gun.
Yeah, which is like I don't know. That's a gag I like. Maybe I'm just like juvenile, but like I thought it was funny, you know. But no, but I can see why as a fan you'd probably be like, what? There's a bit more pathos to that character.
Yeah, and I mean to be fair, they're in it for like a minute, but that was just kind of because after your introduction, you get the Marvel logo, which is like a really embarrassing like I think it's trying to go for Guns N' Roses like guitar riff of the Marvel theme,
Right.
and I
I
don't
think
know,
it's Diatona, right?
it's what sorry?
Is it Giacchino?
Yes, Giacchino did the music for this. Yeah,
I
I
think
guess
that's the
that's.
second
Mhm.
time. That's the second time Giacchino has uh, done like a special fanfare thing for these Marvel movies because he also did the Spider-Man Homecoming, and he
Mhm.
went and with the Marvel Studios logo, he did the Spider-Man theme song with that. So
Mhm.
that's interesting that for two movies he's done,
Yeah.
he's messed with the fanfare. That's pretty fun.
No, that is pretty cool. But there's something about like rock music for score that it's just kind of wonky to me. So when it came up, it was like, this sounds weird. I'm not sure about this as a choice. But then we immediately go from that into the Guardian stuff, and
Right.
I guess we should also mention that Korg is like the narrator of the movie too.
There's like some storytelling and some exposition
Hmm.
here and there. Um, some of which works pretty well. Some of which we can talk about.
Yeah, because with that, I feel like I like it on paper because it's your kind of it's in a better movie. I think it is your kind of Conan the Barbarian, like you're kind of opening with Mako or Mako, kind of narrating. Like it's very mythical in that way. But part of it is also that it's Taika Waititi's goofy New Zealand Korg voice that he's doing it. And then I also feel like it's used in places where it's not really needed. Like we do it where we get this big backstory thing with Thor and Jane, where we kind of go through their relationship and like how it failed. Because we got to set this up for this movie, and you kind of just have Korg explaining what's happening to you. But I was thinking about it on the way home because the end of the movie uses the ending guitar solo of November Rain for an action scene, which that is not action music. But um,
That's funny.
I was thinking it would be a cooler motif if we maybe like spliced that in places. And what would have maybe been cool, because with like November Rain, you have the whole nothing lasts forever kind of motif to that song. If we'd maybe started it there and had that, like, remove the narration and show their downfall visually with maybe that playing over it, I thought that would maybe be a bit more interesting.
No, I can see that. That's interesting. My thing with it was my only kind of like criticism of that aspect of the movie. Not even criticism, more just like if we're doing like a writer's workshop thing, like a suggestion kind of a thing, is
Mhm.
they do a Korg does the story time thing where he's kind of like you know kind of giving exposition of like the backstory of Thor and everything has been through up to this point, kind of filling stuff in, and they go through the love interests already in that moment, and then we just have an
Mhm.
even longer one with Jane. And I'm like, my question would be like, did we need to go through the love interests during that recap? Because maybe it's a bit redundant that we have to do that again, you know.
That's true. I didn't even
Um,
think of that.
yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's ultimately a problem. It's more just like if we were in like a writers' workshop thing with like Taika Waititi, I would probably bring that up as a note. I'd be like, maybe reconsider, maybe,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, for
But
sure. No, it's definitely a thing there. I guess because I also mentioned the music, I should mention uh, we we have like a ton of Guns N' Roses throughout this, which is a band that I like. I feel like embarrassed now to admit that I like Guns N' Roses. I don't know, but
oh no, 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 no. I mean, so here's the thing. I'm not a fan of Guns N'
Mm,
Roses, really. I can appreciate some aspects of the craft. They're just not really my thing.
mm.
But no, but they have like well constructed songs, and I think that the songs they picked in this movie were pretty cool. Um,
It is just
but what
kind
do
of
you guys?
your basic like go to. Like if there's gonna be a Guns N' Roses song played in anything, it's Welcome to the Jungle, Paradise City, Sweet Child of Mine, maybe November Rain. But with the intro, you have the big like Welcome to the Jungle bit. Because we do that quite a bit with the music, or like with fight scenes in this, where we'll pick a Guns N' Roses song and we'll put that over one of the fight scenes, and I like don't think it really works very well, and I also just don't really think the action's very good in this movie. And I have that with Ragnarok. Like when I watched Ragnarok, I thought uh, like the comedy directing is fine, but like the action always felt to me like it was done by a Marvel intern, and I have that like quite a bit with this movie. We have that one. We have one of the big things I was excited to see in the trailer was like the big black and white set piece when they go to the I forget what it's called. Is it like Shadow World, Shadow Realm, or something like that?
Shadowrun.
Mhm. Yeah, when they go there, and then I thought the action. This is probably just a me thing, but when they start fighting, all I could think of just by how it was shot was that DC logo, where like they do like the individual Justice League members that like come out, and you have Batman where he's throwing his batarang, and I was like, that's not the thing I should be thinking of.
That's funny. I was not thinking about that, but I can understand why someone would think about that though. That makes sense. What was I gonna say about Guns N' Roses? What I Oh yeah, I brought this up to you because I saw this. I saw this like during an early screening, and I was kind of like talking to Austin about my experiences with it initially, and um, would you agree? It kind of the Guns N' Roses thing kind of feels like the Flash Gordon like Queen thing.
Yeah, I can see that. It also
Yeah,
feels like what they did with the first movie, but admittedly better. Or like not the first Thor, but like Taika Waititi's first Thor, like with Ragnarok, where it's like
yeah,
that. They hit Led Zeppelin and played the song several times, but they only had the one. And this, like, it almost feels like not exactly formulaic, but it's like about the same points where it's like, okay,
yeah,
you have like the big Thor action like you put in the song, but we just kind of jump around, and there is that kind of Flash Gordon. I wouldn't be shocked if that's what they were thinking of.
yeah, and it makes me wish that Ragnarok had used more Led Zeppelin. I actually wonder if perhaps they wanted to use more Led Zeppelin, but it was just like way too expensive or something.
Yeah,
Um,
possibly.
it is Led Zeppelin we're talking about. Like they're not the cheapest. Like
Hmm.
you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And they're also pretty protective over their music. It seems like Dazed and Confused. Like they weren't allowed to use the song Dazed and Confused. Like they tried to get that song in that movie, and this movie's literally called Dazed and Confused, but they couldn't. You know what I mean? So I
Hmm.
think Led Zeppelin seems like they're kind of protective. I mean, I'm not sure if that's true. It just seems like maybe for that Ragnarok, it was like too hard to get their
It's a
music
bit
or
too
something. So they
expensive.
just only had, yeah. So they only had like Immigrant Song, and that's it. Meanwhile, with this, it seems like Guns N' Roses is probably a bit more, um, like, it's probably a bit more like,
Well,
what can I say?
Axl Rose really needs his like donut money. So
Oh, really? I know nothing about that band. Is yeah, okay.
I know I got to see them when they came back, like live,
Oh,
and Axl Rose had to change his shirt like 6 times in the concert because you could just see the sweat going down it.
oh man. That's wild. See, this is why some people perform shirtless, like Anthony Kiedis or something.
Hmm.
Um, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess with the Axl thing, we should talk about Heimdall's son.
Yeah. I wasn't too sure about that joke. Um,
Mhm.
well, I guess you can. You want to set it up?
Yeah, so we introduce Heimdall, who is in the first three Thor movies. He's like the master of the Bifrost, and he can like send people to different locations. We introduce his son, and his name is Astrid, I think, and instead he wants to be named Axel. But the joke where they throw this out, it have you ever seen Thunder Force?
No.
So there's this joke in Thunder Force where they say Urkel like 6,000 times in the span of 1 second, and it's incredibly obnoxious. But it reminded me of that because it was like, oh, my name's Axel. Oh, but it's Astrid. No, Axel, Astrid, Axel, Astrid, Axel. And then Korg goes, like, his name is Asshole. Just accept it. And I was like, oh my god, we were building this for like 2 seconds, or for like a minute, just for his name is Asshole.
That's fine.
Come on now.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Um, yeah, my thing with it, like, I actually didn't even pick up on that. That was even the joke. I guess I just like tuned out during that moment.
Because it's just like a back
Um,
and forth. Yeah, it was. There was like two moments in the movie where I was just like, "Oh my god, like fuck off." That was one of them.
well, I like with that moment though. I was like too distracted though. I was like, why would he do that? You know, because I feel like you know, I don't know. There's just something weird about that kid in particular wanting to not be named the name he was given. You know
Mhm,
what I mean? Because
mhm,
his like father passed away. You know,
mhm,
and I'm sure his father and his mother had took like pretty great pride in like naming that kid. I would assume. You know, I don't like assuming things because it makes an ass out of you and me. But like, I would assume that these people, there was like a tradition that went into it. They probably really cared about this name. Why would you do that? You know what I mean? I just feel like there's something really weird about it. I'm like, I'm not sure about that one.
yeah, but it also just I think feels very retroactive, where it's like, oh, he had a son as well. Like even when they say it, it's like, oh, it's Heimdall's son. It's like, what? Yeah, I guess I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess.
maybe.
Yeah, it's weird. It never came
Yeah,
up before, but okay.
that's funny. No, that's true though, man. Um, yeah. Well, yeah. So I guess that's definitely like a thing that we agree on. That was a bit um, cluttered.
Hmm. Well, I
That's okay.
guess yeah, and I guess I should mention since I said there's like the two moments where I had like oh my god, the other one and I had like a verbal and I didn't even mean it like it just when you just like you see something you just like blurt something out like without thinking. It was like that where I was like oh fuck off in the middle of the theater and luckily there's nobody around me so nobody heard it and I wasn't like loud or
Right.
anything. But the other one was when Gore is fighting Jane Foster's Thor, and he refers to her as Lady Thor, and she's like, you can't call me that. I'm Mighty Thor. Or you can also call me Dr. Jane Foster. And it's supposed to be like this big, like, empowering moment. And it was like, oh my god,
Oh,
stop.
yeah. I don't know. I didn't. I guess I didn't catch that was what was happening there. So I didn't like notice that. I probably wouldn't have an issue with that either way though. Like I that kind of a thing never like gets under my skin. I'm just kind of like, yeah, man, that's cool.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
It hit me the wrong way. It was like a knife going between the ribs, where it was like, okay, I get it, I get
Oh,
it.
I see. I see. For you, it probably felt a lot more like, oh, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, I don't really know. There's like stuff like that. Like I don't really know why Valkyrie is a king instead of a queen. Like I think that's very strange. I don't really know why they made that choice. I also don't know why she's introduced in a Old Spice commercial. And that's not a joke. She is straight up introduced in an Old Spice
He,
commercial.
yeah, I guess they're just getting those like sponsors for New Asgard. Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, like it feels really weird because the Thor movies have never really had a good understanding of what Asgard is. And then we kind of come to this one, and it's like, okay, we have New Asgard. I don't know, it's just like a tourist destination. When we go there, and you have like the Disney cruises all on the bank of it. And they're doing
yeah,
like Old Spice commercials and rides and tours and all this stuff.
yeah. Hmm.
And that's what you get, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I like thematically what that means. I something that I think Waititi gets with Thor that I like about the comics that I've read, like the Lee and Kirby stuff. Because what I like about Thor when looking at it in the context of like Jack Kirby's uh, like canon, like comic book like canon, and it kind of functions as in like a trilogy. There's kind of like Jack Kirby's like Thor stuff, and then there's the New Gods, and then there's the Eternals. There's
Hmm.
kind of like a beginning, middle, and end. I feel like with Jack Kirby's Thor, that's definitely like Kirby's kind of like critiquing tradition and stuff like that, and critiquing like Thor is a good person and like he means well and he really wants to do good. But you also have like Odin making these decrees and like messing things up for Thor and stuff like that. And there are so I think that you have stuff like that, and I think the Waititi understands that in his movies, which is interesting. I think that Love and Thunder does touch on that. I mean, Gore is an interrogation on the concept of godhood and on um, like what they really fight for and stuff like that. I think that he does a good job with that in this movie. Um, I kind of wish we had more time with New Asgard. To be honest, to really flesh that out. That like no, like Thor and and Valkyrie, like they're really trying to fight to make sure that this place honors the stuff that like the soul of Asgard, but maybe um, improves on the traditions and stuff like that, and maybe reaches for something better, which is of course a very Jack Kirby sentiment. So
Hmm.
I really like it as a thematically, like why it's there. I think that that's cool, but I kind of wish we had done even more with it. I think that would have been cool. Which is like it's like a criticism, but it's more like I kind of just wish we had more of that. Like I don't know. It's
Hmm.
interesting. Where a lot of
Yeah.
my criticism with this movie.
Yeah, I feel like we needed a little bit more with New Asgard and Omnipotent City. It's
I'm sorry.
what's that? Sorry.
I think it's like omnipotent.
Wait, it's really funny because Thor's like, "Oh, we're going to Omnipotent City," and Valkyrie goes, "Yeah, we need to go to Omnipotent City," and Jane Foster turns and goes, "Oh, we have to go to Omnipotency." Or like it's they pronounce it differently, but I'm sure that was probably an intentional
Yeah.
joke. But that's also we go there for like one scene, and it would have been cool to maybe parallel what you were saying with like the kind of old traditions with gods and whatnot. By you have like this kind of new Asgard civilization that they've put up, and then you have this kind of old god city, where all the gods live and they hang out.
Mhm. Yeah, because you see Thor confronted with Zeus in this movie, someone he himself idolized and lionized as a youth, and was an inspiration to him.
Hmm.
And he's then kind of disillusioned by how kind of vain and selfish he truly is. Um, and I can see what you mean, where it might have been cool to maybe parallel that with something like New Asgard, that does function as like and I mean, I think that there is a parallel there, but I think that what you're suggesting is perhaps like you cut back and forth. Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, just even if you didn't cut back and forth, if we just spent more time with both of them, because
Sure.
when we get to Zeus and whatnot, it's we're really just there for one scene, and Zeus is just kind of there to, I don't know, be a joke about orgies. Most of his scene, and he has like a little skirt that he pulls up and stuff, and
Mm,
it's we kind of waste a lot of the time with that on just kind of like silly moments like that, and
right.
I feel like we could have built a little bit more on that, and just kind of I think part of it too is that we have an entire world of gods, but only one of them gets to have a moment. So the Thor kind of your kind of realization of like, oh, your god, like maybe Gore has a point in that like the gods don't really care. It's like, oh yeah, but it's just this one. This one's
Yeah.
just kind of a
Well,
jerk.
I think that I guess part of why that didn't bother me as much because I recognize where you're coming from with that, and I think that that's pretty valid. I actually kind of wish that Thor had maybe seen other gods in that setting, and I'm willing to maybe suggest that perhaps they were cut from the movie.
Mhm.
But I do think that what's smart about having Zeus be the guy that he confronts is this is the big dude. You know what I mean? Like this is
Mhm.
the guy, and this is how he acts. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think that that's smart. If you're going to condense it, I think it's smart to you pick Zeus because I mean it's obvious, maybe like horribly simplistic to some, but I think it gets the job done and going like this guy is ideally supposed to be the best of the best, and he really isn't.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So I
Yeah.
thought in that sense it worked out, but I can see where you're coming from though, where it's like, oh, maybe it would have been cool to maybe see like other gods and
Yeah, I
stuff
almost
like that.
wonder if they should have went the Doctor Strange Tooth route, where you have your kind of Illuminati of like five people, and they're all basically the same, but like like their dialogue is very interchangeable, and they're just kind of there for a moment. But I almost wonder if it would have maybe been a little bit more effective if we'd maybe have that with the gods, where you kind of have like Zeus is your kind of big one, like maybe he's like the Mordo, he gets the most to do and he gets the most to say. And then
Right.
you have like kind of like a few here and there that get like a little moment or two.
Well, and that's a great idea, but I almost wonder if maybe they wouldn't do that because it would be seen as like too derivative of Multiverse of Madness with the
Hmm.
Illuminati.
Possibly,
Um, yeah,
because
but that is
yeah.
like a good idea. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, I think we all assumed Zeus and all these gods were going to show up just to be killed off by Gore, and ultimately we don't really see him kill any gods in this movie outside of the opening. Um, and that's probably like an issue. I mean, like it doesn't
Yeah.
really bring the movie down in a sense because like the movie never really sets up a place for him to do so. But there is just like I don't know. You introduced the God Butcher and he didn't butcher any gods outside of his origin. At least on screen, we're
Well,
told about like
oh
gods
yeah.
that he's killed.
We see like corpses, and we also we see him like invade New Asgard and then like take a lot of the children
Mhm.
from New Asgard and stuff like that. So like he's acting on stuff, but he like but you're right, like he's not we don't see him like butcher anyone really.
No, they
I think
talk
it's a
about it a
cool
lot, but they don't really.
yeah.
You don't really see it.
Yeah, we get some cool homages. Like there's a really in what I read, there's a really dark moment where like these like giants are like hung up by like chain like hooks
Mhm.
or whatever, and like you get to see that in this movie, and I was like, whoa, it's crazy they got away with that in this movie.
Mhm.
So we see that in like the Like when like I think
It's
I think
Star-Lord.
it's like
He's like going through like a thing.
that's right. He's like
Yeah.
flipping through it. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So we see that stuff is there. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like we bring back Lady Sif, who's in the first two movies, and she gets like basically just a cameo at the beginning and then at the end, and she shows up to be like, oh, Gore was so bad when I fought him, and that's kind of it. Like that's the most you really get for like acknowledging like in the moment the fact that he's killing these gods outside of just kind of like pictures or whatever, like actually like talking about it and kind of seeing the aftermath.
right. That
Mhm.
makes sense.
That also has a moment which I brought up to you before we got on this
Yeah,
call.
yeah,
But so in that scene where he finds Lady Sif, she talks about how like, oh, it's very good. I'm gonna get to go to Valhalla, because I died in battle. And what I have to imagine is an improv. Thor goes, "Oh no, Sif, you don't get to go to Valhalla for this because you died after the battle, and in order to go there, you have to die in battle." And by the end of this movie, Jane Foster, of course, dies. She sacrifices her life, and she gets to go to Valhalla despite dying after the battle, uh, like what Thor said, and I don't really understand. It reminds me of Ragnarok in that way, and that there's a lot of jokes, and this movie has it too. But they do a lot of like improv jokes where they're not thinking about it; they just say something they think is funny in the moment, but it doesn't fit with certain details. Like one of my favorite go-to ones for Ragnarok is there's a part where Thor's talking to Valkyrie and he's like, "Oh, as a kid, I like thought the Valkyries were so great. They were awesome. It's about time that women have, like this like army of just women." And it's like, what are you talking about? Like they were all butchered before you were a kid. Like what? Doesn't make any sense. And with this movie, you have, of course, Korg mentions. They bring up like the comic book thing of Korg's race are all male. And in
yeah.
Ragnarok, he mentions having a mom. It's just we don't think about improv stuff sometimes, so it leads like these moments where it's like, okay, but that doesn't connect, and you have a moment that contradicts your big emotional ending with Jane Foster, and that was just like a big thing I was thinking of in the moment.
Well, the Korg thing is like definitely a mess up. Like that's that's. Well, I mean, that's definitely like a retcon at the very least. But like also like that's definitely a moment where like they weren't like. I mean, hey, you know what though? It's cool they implemented that. Like that's like that's a fun detail. But like also it's like, oh wow, like they weren't thinking. Definitely in the first movie,
Mhm,
because in that movie that was definitely like Taika Waititi was just kind of like, oh, like I'm just gonna be Korg,
mhm.
big rock monster, it rocks, that kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's
That was
like
fun.
this is a funny
Like,
thing to say.
yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know. Like, where do you stand on that Jane Foster thing with that?
Uh, I don't mind it because I think it's kind of like, and this is like probably going to be like reaching, if I'm being honest, but I kind of like this though, to be honest. Like, there's something kind of fun about this explanation. I kind of like the idea that like there's still a battle going on, but it's like a morality battle, and like a spiritual battle
Mhm,
with Gore and Thor and Jane all there, and they all kind of serve like their specific kind of roles in the conversation about love and about the kind of nature of love and um, kind of the idea that you can kind of like prolong death by living forever.
mhm.
Well, there you go. Now I actually really like that she goes to Valhalla because of that. Because she lives forever because of love.
Mhm.
You know.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, yeah. So, no, I think that's where I stand on that. I think that that's fairly well done. I can see where you're coming from though. I think that if you're thinking about like literally the battle did end. I can see where you're coming from with that. Like literally like they fought and then she died after the fact.
Mhm.
But I think that there's still like a conflict going on and she ends up dying in the tail end of that conflict.
Mhm. Yeah, I think if that line earlier on in the film didn't happen, like I wouldn't, it's fine. It's just that they had like
Oh,
this one
sure.
line, and it's also weird. This is just like a random nitpick, but it's weird that her and Odin like turned to orange dust when like none of the other Asgardians seem to do so.
That's okay. That is pretty funny.
Yeah, I don't know what
That
that's
is,
about.
yeah, that is a very funny inconsistency. Yeah.
But since we're at the spot of the movie, we should talk about Eternity,
Oh
who's like a
yeah,
big
yeah, yeah.
big thing that we both like from the comics. Where this movie's all about, Gory wants to get to Eternity because whoever the first person to make it to Eternity gets their one wish. And you kind of set it up in the movie early on, like Eternity is going to be this big statue. We keep cutting to the statue of Eternity, and we do get to see Eternity, and he is just like straight up the comic book like entity, just like the page, just like on screen. He doesn't talk, which
Right.
is lame. I have like fanboy nitpicky things. Like I wish that he
Yeah.
talked. I wish that they did the thing from Doctor Strange where he's like a little ball of planets that like then expands into a person.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah.
But I had one question for you, which is because I think this is really weird, and I don't know, I'm not really a fan of it on a first viewing, which is the fact that you need the Bifrost to access Eternity, where it's like he's locked behind a gate, and the only way to get through is the Bifrost. Because out of the entire universe, you can kind of get the sense that there's just kind of like different like gods and stuff, and they're all kind of just like I don't know, maybe like on like an even playing field. They're very just kind of like these are like the higher beings, and you have maybe some that are like more higher than others, and Asgardians are probably like somewhere in the middle. So the fact that their thing is the only thing that can access like the big character that is the universe, I think is really weird. Like that feels very like okay, we need like your MacGuffin to get to him. Okay, what should we do? Make it Thor's hammer or his axe.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I thought that was a strange choice.
Um, I'll have an issue with it if in the future we don't expand on eternity and we don't maybe that is like the only way we can figure that out to
Mhm.
get to eternity, then I'm gonna be like, that's really like convenient just for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But if there I maybe the idea is that maybe there's like multiple ways to obtain eternity, and this just kind of serves the point for this kind of story. What I like about eternity a lot in this movie, as simplistic as eternity is, what's nice is Waititi doesn't do anything too crazy with eternity, and that means aside from just literally putting the page on the screen, um, what's nice is you can kind of have other creators go in and do other things with eternity, which means that if Raimi ever got to do eternity for Doctor Strange 3, you'll probably get to do a whole lot of things of eternity that maybe you would like.
Hmm.
Like that, and me, because we both read the Lee and Ditko Doctor Strange, and we're both big fans.
Hmm.
And it would be cool if we got to actually see that version of eternity. But I think that this movie kind of leaves that open to happen, you know. And
Hmm.
I think if anything, seeing kind of seeing the bigger picture of it, I think that that's the kind of thing that the MCU is good at kind of rewarding is stuff like that, where you know if you just put in that investment, like you'll eventually get something out of it, you know.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna be interested to see what they do with Eternity moving forward, because I feel like watching it here, it could go either way. Like it feels like it turned like this could just be like the big Eternity moment, and that's kind of it. Or we could expand on this. I could see it going either way. Um, like I could see your kind of explanation being, because at the end, so Gore wants to get to Eternity to get his one wish, which is to kill all the gods, but instead, they talk him into using his one wish to revive his daughter. And there's the shot where you see her reflection, and her reflection like is Eternity, but like as a small child, where it's like her frame, but that kind of a universe. And I could also see them moving forward with just the idea that Eternity just became this person. And I don't know. I could see it going either way. I don't know what they'll do with that moving forward.
Oh, see, because I didn't even take it like that, but like I can see what you mean. Like I can see them going either way with that. Where like you crazy. Thor's daughter is literally eternity. That's crazy.
Hmm.
That's the case. But yeah, I hopefully they do more with eternity in the future. I feel like it would be a missed opportunity to not do eternity in a Doctor Strange movie. I would love it if they did
Hmm.
that.
Oh, of course.
That's a
That's
big
the
part of
big thing.
it. Yeah.
Now, the big thing I want is Dormammu and Eternity on screen together. And we did the cool thing with Dormammu where he's, like the classic, like Marvel, like character on fire thing. We have the lines that kind of like ripple.
Yeah.
And here we just have straight up comic book Eternity. So seeing those two on screen together would be crazy.
Yeah. Doctor Strange stuff has a pretty good track record of just getting straight up like adapted on
Hmm.
screen, which is surprising, given what that material is. You know, obviously there have been some changes here and there with the Doctor Strange stuff,
Hmm.
but like we have Dormammu with the lines. I mean, he's kind of reinvented to be kind of like a Galactus type figure in terms of like size, but like they still keep the bargaining thing from the comics, and he has that like internal logic that Dormammu has, which we both love.
Hmm.
Um,
I
so I
also
could see
think
like,
moving forward they could like bring him down. Like maybe he like appears human sized to confront Doctor Strange or something.
oh, I hope so, because one of my favorite scenes in Steve Ditko, Stanley, Doctor Strange is when like, oh, I can't remember
Is it the
exactly the
gladiator
movie, but
battle?
yeah, 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 and Dormammu's pissed at Mordo, because Mordo, I think Mordo like wins, even though Dormammu said no
Uh,
to like doing
yes.
anything.
So what
Is that what happened?
happens is Doctor Strange
I'm just
is
not remembering.
yeah, so Doctor Strange is like he's like getting Dormammu down and he's gonna win, and then Mordo like zaps Doctor Strange with lightning from behind, and that's kind of how Dormammu wins. And he's like,
Yeah.
"What the hell, dude? Like I had him. Like I would, I yeah, it looked like I was losing, but I was totally gonna get up and kill him, and you just ruined it."
Well, no, yeah. Well, what I like about that though is it's like Dormammu's also pissed because he's like, dude, like I'm honoring this bargain.
Mhm.
Like I'm honoring this thing. That's what I find really entertaining about that is Dormammu is so set on this very specific arrangement he has with this person that he's it's almost like a Larry David. Like he's like can't find like a common ground. He's like I we figured this out, you know. So no, you know, so they keep that in Doctor Strange. Yeah. So no,
Mhm.
a lot of Doctor Strange stuff has been adapted very well in the
Mhm.
MCU, which is cool.
Yeah, no, and I mean, Eternity looks perfect in this. Like, there's no complaint to be had there. He's wonderful.
Yeah, like obviously small nitpicky things. What's messed up is I could have sworn I heard Eternity speaking in fragmented voices earlier in the movie, and it seems like that was just a fluke from my mind.
Well, I
Yeah,
because there is like that kind of voice thing, but I think it's just supposed to be the sword.
yeah, I think so too. Now that we're talking about it,
Mhm. Yeah, hopefully, in the future we give him a voice. It would be really disappointing if we ever brought Eternity back and he's just kind of always silent. Although the perfect Eternity voice is gone, that voice should have been Gilbert Godfrey. Let's be honest, but
that would have been awesome. Is that how you read Eternity?
no, I'm just
Uh,
joking.
that'd be like pretty funny. If that is how it was. The dude was God. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I guess like the one big thing that we haven't really talked about is how do you think they handled the Jane Cancer stuff?
Oh, I thought that stuff was handled really well. Um, we had talked about this a little bit previously, like leading up to the movie, but we kind of were talking about how like what Waititi did with like Jojo Rabbit with the mom in that movie.
Mhm.
Um, kind of hoping that like Jane's cancer was kind of dealt with like that.
Yep.
Um,
Well, and I always said the way to do the Jane Foster thing in a movie is that she dies by the end because of her cancer. But I always said, yeah, but they're not going to have the guts to do that, and they're going to want her to be around for several movies. I should have also at the same time thought, yeah, but Natalie Portman had like a rough exit the first time, and they brought her back. They probably only brought her back for one, and
mhm,
they did it. And I do think it is more on that Jojo Rabbit thing where there's not really a lot of joke. I don't think there's really any jokes that undercut her having cancer. I still like a carryover from the first two films. I still don't really think that uh, Hemsworth and Portman have chemistry. I also don't think she can really pull off the Thor thing, which was like a thing I worried about going in. But I do think everything with her cancer is done really well.
sure. I actually think that they have a lot better chemistry in this movie, um,
It's better.
which is yeah, it's like way better than previously because in the core flashback sequence they do a lot of like heavy lifting with that, uh, and it's cute, you know, it's nice because it's definitely looking at a lot of like Thor Mighty Avenger stuff with the kind of romance plot of like this god, you know, this Norse god is, you know, gonna be like living with this like human, you know. Um, looking at that, and there's like nice moments where like, you know, they get scared at a movie, and then Thor like takes his hammer like that. Like you get fun stuff like that with their relation, typical romantic kind of situations, and kind of elevating it with that. Um, yeah, but your boyfriend's a Norse god kind of a thing, which is fun.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that stuff is really important in like setting up their relationship, and I thought that Waititi did a good job directing their scenes. It felt like adults talking to each other, man, and it felt like adults like talking about their relationship in the past, and that's kind of all you can really ask for with like
Mhm.
romance plots, you know. I thought it was fine. No, but everything with her cancer was done really really effectively, and it was very emotional. Um, and I really like that she didn't want to talk about it for a while. I thought that was pretty realistic.
Mhm.
Um, the fact that the Mjolnir is actually messing with her chemo is a thing from the comics. Apparently, I hadn't gotten to that stuff yet, but that is a thing in the comics, and that's cool because I feel like that kind of definitely is a very classic Marvel thing where like you have your superpower, but it also kind of messes with an element of your life, you know,
Mhm.
or there's like a sacrifice, you know, that goes into like being like a like a superhero, you know. So I thought that was really nice that they were able to incorporate that and still deal with the issue of cancer with the level of like it was very tastefully done. I thought and pretty like emotionally powerful.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing that stands out from this one to Ragnarok, where Ragnarok I always felt like needed those moments where we kind of slowed down, and Thor, kind of went like, oh, the Warriors 3 were like really good friends of mine, and they died. Like I'm sad about that. Like my dad's dead. I'm sad about that. And this movie has more of those moments, and I really appreciated that. Um, it,
Yeah,
it's it's a sacrifice because you get that, and then you also get in Korg's narration. He shows the Warriors Three's deaths, and he's like, "Oh, who was that? I don't know. Nobody knows who they are."
yeah, it's unfortunate, man. The Warriors 3 and Thor comics are so cool. They're so fun.
I
Well
think they're
said.
pretty good in the first movie. Just in the second and third movie, they get nothing to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think the only one that's like a very big missed opportunity. I hope the actor for Volstagg isn't like angry I say this, but like I feel like Volstagg could have been like a really great like comedic relief character, like truly like because
hmm
that's his thing in the comics. He's just this like it's kind of like I don't know. He's just kind of like this guy that loves eating stuff, you know, and he's
He,
like a very like capable warrior, absolutely. But like he also is like he's a little bit of a clown, you know.
yeah,
So I
he's
kind of
Thor
wish
in
they had done
Endgame.
that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Is there anything else that has come to mind that you want to mention about this movie?
Um.
I feel like we were very scattershot. I'm definitely processing a lot of stuff, but I feel like we
Yeah.
covered a lot of it. Unless you have anything.
I think we covered all of it except for Hercules, the post-credit scene.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really have like a lot to say about it. It's very much that seems to be like a new thing where it's like, okay, we have a new character that I don't know will show up in a few years. Maybe I don't know. It's weird because these movies are so far apart, and we're now setting up things like for direct sequels. But we're gonna see some of these characters before, so it's like, well, we set up Hercules to go hunt Thor. Like that, we'll probably see him somewhere else first. Like it's gonna be weird with that, but that's neither here nor there. But we kind of we did this with Clea with oh, there's
Doctor
somebody else.
Strange.
Yeah, with Doctor Strange. I feel like there's somebody else in Phase 4 we did this with, but I'm blanking. Anyways, I know you have a lot to say about Hercules.
Oh, well, I was just gonna say with Hercules, I'm excited because that's like a really fun thing in the comics that like my first issue of Thor was the Thor and Hercules fighting each other in New York City, um, and I'm gonna be very excited to see that on screen. I think that'll be fun to see on screen.
Yeah, I'm not sure who that
And
actor is, but it'll be fun.
yeah, I have no idea who that actor is.
hmm yeah, I'm sure it'll be like a cool thing. I'm glad that they are doing Hercules. There was definitely a question of like, will they do it? Will they not? I There's like a conflict of corporate synergy stuff they have sometimes, where like the cat in Captain Marvel had to be changed because it was Chewie, and they didn't want, you know, that confusion of branding where you have like Chewie from Star Wars and then from Marvel, and
Right.
I was kind of worried that there would maybe be that with Hercules, where we're remaking the Disney animated film, and I am glad that there doesn't seem to be an issue with that.
Well, I don't think that we're gonna get a Hercules movie.
I don't think so either.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think as long as he's like a Thor character,
Mhm.
he'll be okay to do.
Yeah, he'll probably just be one of those kind of side characters. But it is cool that he looks like straight off the page. Like
He
we
has the mallet.
yeah, they just did that exact costume. He's got the like stupid head thing.
Yeah, no, it's great. No, I'm so excited for that. That'll be really fun to see.
Hmm.
Uh, if they do it, I hope that they do it again. But I hope they do another one of these.
I'm sure they'll do
Seems like
another Thor movie.
yeah, because I think YTD's kind of doing some kind of groovy stuff with this. You know, not everybody likes it, which I totally respect that. Like I think people are totally valid if they don't aren't a big fan of like these movies. You know,
Hmm.
people have like very good like arguments for it, and I can understand it. But I don't know. I think it does a lot right for me, and
Yeah,
I
for
think it
sure.
tickles my sensibilities. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it definitely seems like Hemsworth is in for the long run. Um, I think we can like improve on some of the humor stuff, but I am glad that we are improving on the drama stuff. At least with this
Yeah.
movie. So that's nice. Like I do think this is pro. I'm like conflicted. I still don't know if I like this more than Ragnarok or not. I'm not entirely sure. I think I'm gonna need another rewatch. But there's aspects that I like a lot more than that movie. And then I think there's
Yeah.
some of the comedic stuff I think I like a bit less than that. Um, oh, I also wanted to mention with the ending, because like there's this weird thing with Hemsworth, I think, where he kind of just wants to like improv everything now. And I've heard a lot of talk that like he mainly wants to film in Australia now, which is where he's from. And then where we leave Thor in this is that he's now going to pal around with Gore's daughter, who's played by his actual daughter, and it just kind of feels like we're kind of leaning more and more into Hemsworth just kind of wants to be Hemsworth and do his thing.
Yeah. No, it's definitely one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, I can see why that would bother people. I guess we'll see how that pans out in the next movie.
Mhm.
If it becomes an issue, it becomes an issue, you know. And if it's also, but if we get like a really good movie about Thor being a dad, which is like a it's pretty unique kind of status quo for a movie.
Hmm.
Um,
And something
it could
we've
be good.
not really done before, like that could be very unique. Like Ant-Man has a daughter, but like Thor is, like the sole parent of this person. Like this is, gonna be like a big important thing moving forward for his character.
Yeah. Mhm. No, so I think that could potentially be really fun to see explored in a movie like this. Um, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Well, if you don't have anything else, I guess we can wrap up. And
Yeah.
yeah, so thanks for watching this review, Josh. Thanks for coming on. It was fun talking Thor and comics with you.
Pleasure. Yeah.
And I'll check you guys later. See ya, everybody.
See ya.
Where the fuck is Jason? Piece of shit. I'm not good with goodbyes.
Okay. Okay, my friend.
Yeah, where the fuck is